I am finally getting around to making a video showing how to archive and upload mods to the Nexus. This isn't for Bethesda Net because it's a different process, but finally getting around to making this video. Normally I just say, hey, there's probably a video on YouTube, you should probably go watch that, it'll be fine. And the videos are pretty much fine. However, a lot of them are just like, oh, you're uploading a mod with a texture, create a textures folder and, add it to an archive and upload it. But with larger mods, sometimes you don't even know what the hell you added, honestly, because I usually forget too. So I'm going to be using a kind of larger, slightly more complicated mod with several assets and so on for an example. The process is pretty much identical between Skyrim, Fallout 4, and Skyrim Special Edition. Skyrim and Skyrim Special Edition use archives with the extension .bsa. Fallout 4 uses the extension .ba2. This isn't really something you should be worrying about at all. If you're watching this video to learn how to archive and upload a mod for Fallout 4, and you see that I'm using Skyrim as an example, and you see that .ba2 is what you're creating as an archive, and .bsa is what I'm creating, it's not really a big deal. That's something you shouldn't be worried about at all. Because a program you're going to be using is BAE. It stands for Bethesda Archive Extractor, and that handles Skyrim's .bsa, it handles Fallout's BA2, and it handles Skyrim Special Edition's .bsa. So you really shouldn't need to worry about that. The link will be in the description for Bethesda Archive Extractor. The current version, as you can see, is version 0.10 or 0.1. So, of course, go ahead and download that and extract it, and you'll need to install C++ Redistributable 2015. You probably already have that installed, but just make sure you have it installed if you can't get it to go ahead and run, and also make sure if you need to, you try running as administrator. I'm going to go ahead and X out of that now, and I'll get back to that in just a second. So like I said, I'm going to be using Skyrim for an example, my playable Ocarina mod, because it's probably the only mod I have that has several different types of assets like textures and audio, and also that replaces vanilla assets, and it's a good example in general. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to load up the Skyrim creation kit, and Fallout 4, load up that creation kit, and Skyrim Special Edition, load up that creation kit if you need to. And I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go ahead and load my mod like I normally would if I'm going to work on it. So load Skyrim and update.esm, make playable Ocarina my active file, and click OK. So once it's loaded up, you'll want to go to File, and then go to Create Archive. And this is very handy for keeping track of what you added to your mod. And it's also going to create a .bsa or a .ba2. One thing that will not show up in here and you need to keep track of are the files that you added to your mod that replace vanilla files. So in this mod, I replaced the flute object and the flute animation. So that's not reflected here. I'm going to need to keep track of that. And I'm going to need to add the flute animation and the flute object that I'm replacing to the archive when I create it. This also won't include the .esp, your plugin. So don't worry about that. We'll get around to all that later. We're actually not even going to be uploading this archive. You're going to be extracting this archive, taking the contents of that, and adding it to another archive pretty much. So I'll click Pack Files here, and I'll get to select a location to save it, and it is pretty iffy if I don't save it to my data folder. So I'm going to save it to my data folder. You can see I already have playable Ocarina. .bsa is there, don't worry about them. And I can exit out now once I created that archive. At this point, you want to open up Bethesda Archive Extractor. Click on the executable, of course. Click File, and open the .bsa or the .ba2 that you just created. Which will be, for me... Wait a second. Oh, there it is. Okay. So playable Ocarina test, that's what I want. And everything will automatically be checked. If you don't want to extract something, just uncheck it. But I want to extract everything. going to click extract, and then it's going to ask me to save it somewhere. I'm going to create a new folder on my desktop. You can obviously save it wherever you like. I'm going to name it, I'm going to give it the same name as my archive. Click select folder, it'll go ahead and extract that. You can exit out of the archive extractor, and I'll drag this over here. This is the folder I just created. So it has pretty much everything in here already, but not everything exactly. So one note, under scripts, if you have any scripts, this includes fragments that you add to quests. So even if you add player.addItem to a dialogue, it'll go ahead and have that here as a script fragment. The scripts that Skyrim looks at to read are .pex, and the source scripts that you write and that actually contain something that you can understand are under the source folder. So if you don't want anybody seeing your scripts, you can go ahead and delete the source folder. But if you're allowing people to go ahead and work on your mod, and if you're working with a bunch of people who need to work on whatever you're uploading, you're going to want to include the source folder. But you don't have to include the source folder. You can delete it if you like. Just letting you know, not a necessity. So at this point, like I said, I added something, or I replaced the flute animation and the flute objects, which isn't in this archive we just extracted here. So I'm going to need to add that myself. So what I'll do is I'll go over to my Skyrim folder, and I'll go ahead and add those to this folder that we have. Okay, there we go. I'll add that to this folder here. So I know off the top of my head that the animation is in meshes, actors, character, and what is it? Animations? Yes. So these are the files I want. Don't be confused by the rest of this. This is for the finished version, which I never really uploaded. I got to get around to that. Either way, I'm going to want to copy these right here. Okay. And within my folder, my playable ocarina test.bsa, I'm going to want to mimic this folder structure here. So meshes already have that folder, so I don't need to worry about that. But then I need to create a folder titled, damn it, come on, titled actors. Then within that, create a folder called character. And then create a folder called animations. I'm the king of typos, so yeah. And I already copied those, so I can paste them in here now. And you can see this is identical. So data, meshes, actors, character, animations, meshes, actors, character, animations. This is our data folder, so to speak. So you want these files, or these folders, meshes, music, and so on, and your ESP to be in the root of the folder that we just created, the playable ocarina test.bsa. I also have to add the object, the flute object, which I replaced. That should be in meshes, anim objects, right here, anim flute. So copy that, and sorry, I guess I'm calling my damn throat. So under meshes, I need to create a folder called anim objects. And I need to paste that. So now I have all the assets that my mod needs, but I obviously need the .esp, the mod itself, really. The plugin, where is it? There we go. So I'll go ahead and copy that and paste it in here. Alright, so now I can go ahead and highlight everything within the playable ocarina test.bsa, right click it, and click add to, well, whatever the name of the folder is, or you can click add to archive and go ahead and name it. And then I'm just going to do it this way. I'm going to hit F2 to rename it here. There we go. And this is the file you're going to go ahead and upload. Now, it created a playable ocarina test.bsl, but you do not need that, so don't worry about that. But before I go ahead and upload the archive as a mod on the Nexus, I like to take an installation that doesn't have this mod installed, so obviously not the installation of Skyrim I use for making the mod, and I like to test it to make sure that I added each file correctly to the archive and that there's nothing missing at all, which is always a good practice. So if you want to, you can go ahead and, well, let me see here. Here we go, this is my Skyrim folder, but I actually have several Skyrim folders here, so I'm going to rename this .modding, and this is what I use for making mods, just messing around in general. And my .main is where I have my main character, which doesn't really have this mod installed right now, so it'd be a good installation to test to make sure all the files are correctly archived. So yeah, if I wanted to do that, I can obviously just go ahead and install it with Nexus Mod Manager and make sure it works. One thing I also like to do is, and I'm going to make a separate video on how to upload it, I'm going to try to get around to that, but once I upload it to the Nexus, I like to download it like anybody would, so, you know, with Nexus Mod Manager, and install it to make sure that works as well. That's pretty much it. If you have any questions, just let me know, and like I said, I'll try to make a separate video on uploading it to the Nexus. Even though that is a pretty straightforward process, it walks you through it. Anyway, thanks for watching.